Sunday morning, blue sky, Southorpe Meadow. What more could you want? Although this is a renowned southern marsh orchid site, there's always plenty of common spotted here, which is why there's also a lot of hybrids here. But at least there's always a decent showing of common spotteds, and hopefully later on we'll find some more spectacular ones, because there's been some very good common spotteds here over the years. Common spotted leaves, you know, Southorpe Meadow flowers. Again, you've got those strong markings on there, looped markings. Yeah, hybrid, full stop. Big one, pretty much the classic common spotted southern marsh hybrid. Spotty leaves and nicely marked flowers. Very clean leaves on this one, absolutely no marks, no spots, faint or otherwise. In every respect it's a southern marsh orchid, but not with markings like that. There's sort of a lot of common spotted in there, so it's an unusual, I would say it's an unusual hybrid. Probably back crossed a million times. Still has the common spotted influence in the flowers, but certainly not in the rest of the plant. Very strange. That's an interesting one. Absolutely no markings on the leaves, and actually very classic early marsh orchid flowers, just totally the wrong colour. It's got to be early marsh plus something hybrid. I mean, you see those they call them lateral sepals. They're like donkey's ears heading up from the flowers. It's absolutely classic early marsh, and even the markings as well, classic early marsh. But it's a hybrid of some sort. That'll be another one heading for social media. Another weird one. Amazing markings on it. It's got no spots on the leaves again. Should just be a southern marsh orchid, but don't know, perhaps that's what it is. Another one of these Southorpe curled flower southern marsh orchids. Something's curling those flowers. It's got to be early marsh orchid, I think, at some point in the past. Who knows? Again, very strong looped markings on the flowers, spotted leaves, hollow stem. Heaven knows what that is. Southern marsh orchid, full stop, in my opinion. That's a beautifully marked plant. You know, it's marsh orchid in leaves, marsh orchid in stem, flowers. Something's messed with that in the past. Not totally dissimilar, but this one's got spots on its leaves. Quite strong common spotted influence in the leaves. Notice all the markings on the flowers are within those two drop down sacs, spaniel's ears, call them what you like, which is an early marsh orchid trait. Another site with a good turnout of what do you call them, Dactylorhiza of one form or another. Just good numbers again. I think it's just an enthusiastically spotted Southern Marsh orchid. That's kind of how Southern Marsh orchids should be. I think there's a few more spots in terms of how wide they spread to a sort of classic Southern Marsh, but there's nothing else going on in this one. It's just, as I say, it's enthusiastically spotted. But that's how it should be. No lines, no loops, no nothing. Just the plain Southern Marsh orchid. Pretty one. If you take one of those classically spotted Southern Marshes and add a few squiggly lines, you end up with a hybrid with the spotty leaves. To me, that is just a plain, straightforward Southern Marsh cross common spotted. Trying to throw up a few easy comparisons, or easy-ish comparisons, of what look like broadly similar plants. And this is the one we were just looking at with the spotted leaves. This is a classic common spotted and Southern Marsh hybrid. But just behind it, if you bear with me, not dissimilar, but there's no lines on this one. This is just spots. And nothing, no marks on the leaves at all. It's just the Southern Marsh orchid. So the two are the same really, apart from the first one had lines on it, and of course spotted leaves. And these are the particularly strange ones. This is, you know, spotted leaves, Southern Marsh orchid type flowers. But you see on here the spots aren't all liberally blasted across the flower. They run down the centre, which is okay, but they seem to be at least 95% tucked up inside two distinct sacs dropping down, which is kind of where the early Marsh orchid bit comes in. You know, we'll never know. There's probably an even better one in the background if I just move the camera. I mean, the two drop down sacs on there are very, very distinctive. Spotty leaves again. So if there's early Marsh in there, then there's probably 3 different Dactylorhizas in there. Wacky. Back again to a classic Southern Marsh, no lines on it at all, as it should be with a Southern Marsh orchid. Should just be a row of spots running down a light coloured throat. No spots on the leaves either. Just a classic, actually a base Southorpe Meadow Southern Marsh orchid to compare all others with. Still just as mad here as it always is. I'm not sure there's an easy way of trying to demonstrate how strange some of these are. I'm going to try and do a split screen thing for at least a short while on here, using that last Southern Marsh orchid, because that's kind of, to me, certainly at this venue, a pure, untouched Southern Marsh orchid. So if we keep that in the pane on the left, then you can look at some of the others. I won't be commenting much on these, but you can just see yourself the differences between the plain Southern Marsh and whatever the hell the others are. No spots on the leaves on this one. This one has spots on the leaves. Spots on the leaves again. That's a plain Southern Marsh, no markings on the leaves. Another plain Southern Marsh orchid, but with those distinct curled flowers. A lovely dusky plain Southern Marsh orchid. Nicely marked Southern Marsh orchid there. To be honest, I didn't think we'd have an orchid of the day today, but this is the orchid of the day. Lovely flower, pure Southern Marsh. I mean, look at those spots. Crazy. I must admit, I don't remember on previous visits here seeing these wall-to-wall, heavily spotted Southern Marsh orchids. And they're very, very nice. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered them, but I just don't. It's as though they've just popped out this year. I'm sure that's not the case. And I think if this was anywhere else, if this was in a field with a good stock of heath spotted orchids, I know where I'd be going with these and saying, with that volume of spots on a Southern Marsh, there's some heath spotted influence, but I am definitely not going to go down that route. There's no heath spotted here. Well, there isn't now anyway. Curly Marsh orchid. Southern Marsh orchid subspecies. Very curly. Nice common spotted, just for a change. I like the sort of purple tops on them as well. It's nice. That's a little bit different. On the face of it, it's a common spotted. It's common spotted leaves, and the flowers could escape as common spotted. Just about, I suppose. But it's a marsh orchid. I mean, the stem is hollow, which means this is a marsh orchid, or at least it's got marsh orchid in it. So it's a Southern Marsh common spotted on the face of it. Quite a nicely coloured one. It's like the common spotted element of this one dominates, which may mean it's back crossed from the original hybrid with a whitish common spotted. I don't know, nor does anyone else. That's very nice, very eye-catching. Spotted leaves, hollow stem. It's a hybrid, but a nice one. Again, spotted leaves, hollow stem, but sparsely marked within those two drop-down loops. Different, or is it? Good old plain, no messing Southern Marsh orchid. That to me is what Southern Marsh orchid should look like. Absolutely spot on textbook, with the white throat, spots running down the middle of the throat, no markings on the leaves. Textbook Southern Marsh orchid. And just next door, if you mix in a bit of common spotted, which this one has got, I mean, what's the difference? You've still got the white throat, you've still got the spots coming down the middle, albeit not many. What you do have is lines on it. And of course spots on the leaves, which proves the point. I suppose if you wanted a classic sort of common spotted cross Southern Marsh, this would be it, with the gloriously spotted leaves down below. And basically a flower that is a classic Southern Marsh flower, but with very distinct common spotted lines running down it as well. Yeah, life would be a lot simpler if all the hybrids looked like this. Absolutely adore that one. That is a very, very nice flower, and that's a plain Southern Marsh orchid on the face of it. There's nothing, no markings on the leaves, so yeah, that's very, very nice, that is. That's a lovely pale Southern Marsh, no complications, pure Southern Marsh. That's a very nice pale Southern Marsh, nothing else going on. A nicely marked group of common spotted Southern Marsh hybrids. This is a sort of classic common spotted Southern Marsh hybrid that sort of does it the other way around. Instead of the spotty leaves and the sort of Southern Marsh flowers, you've got very plain leaves, thick hollow stem, all marsh orchid down there. No sign of common spotted, but there's no way you can call those Southern Marsh flowers because they're not just spotty. There's some quite distinct markings and lines at the top of the flower, loops, call them what you like. So you've got two choices there. There's either common spotted in there, or if you prefer, there's early marsh orchid in there. The fact the leaves, the flowers, sorry, are starting to curl back at the bottom might make you think early marsh, but something in there with the Southern Marsh base. Nice little bouquet of common spotted cross Southern Marsh. I've just noted all of the plants with the curled up, rolled up, call it what you like, flowers are plain leaved and hollow stemmed. They are either on the face of it freakish, strange Southern Marsh orchids, or Southern Marsh orchids with a dose of early Marsh orchid influence in there, either from recent years or distant years. And I could accept that. That's kind of, yeah, I can buy that. The problem is in previous years I found them with spotted leaves. Not many, but I have. And I'm desperately trying to find one this year, but I can't find one. If they were all like this, I'd say, yeah, Southern Marsh cross, early Marsh, or just a strange Southern Marsh. Gloriously marked hybrid. It's very fresh, only just opening, but that's intense and glorious. You know what? I could just call that a clunker. I mean, you're not going to get better patterning than that on either a common spotted or a Southern Marsh, and this is a bit of the two. I'm going to give that a clunker, a Sunday morning clunker. Absolutely wonderful. I don't know whether I'd classify those as rolled back flowers or not. They're certainly not flat flowers that you would expect on a Southern Marsh. They're rolled back to some degree. Some of them are rolled back a lot. It's a hollow stem and there are spots on the leaves. They're faint spots, but there's definitely spots on the leaves, which might suggest that common spotted influence that's caused the spots is very old, and it's kind of been back crossed out, or faded anyway, over many years. But that, on the face of it, you could say has got influence from early Marsh, common spotted and Southern Marsh, the so-called Southorpe Meadow three-way hybrid. Could be. I'll try and find a better one. They're definitely rolled back, so they kind of tick all three boxes. Coming up towards the top of the field now, so kind of changes up here. This is, don't know why, but it's always been a good spot for common spotted orchids. I'm going to sort of make a fool of myself now, stick my neck out, so we're going to see some really nice common spotteds just up ahead in what is a little ditch. They've always produced some very nice plants, so fingers crossed they'll do it again. I could cheat and say here's one, but the stem seems to be a little hollow to me, so I think it's a hybrid personally. Nicely marked though. Another nice one, but another hybrid. I'm not sure there's a pure anything anymore on this site, or very few. Nice one though. Can't get much different than these two, but they're both actually common spotted Southern Marsh hybrids. Very, very different. There you go, another visit to the mad world of Southorpe Meadow completed. Great turnout, lots and lots and lots of marsh orchids. Cast aside Wansford, and this is the number one. There's a lot of plants here, 1,000, 2,000, who knows. Absolutely loads. Quite a few common spotteds, but dwarfed by Southern Marsh, and of course those hybrids. And you know, no change on the hybrid front. There's a few classic common spotted Southern Marsh crosses that you can probably safely identify, but as one of my learned colleagues said on social media recently, once they start crossing back again and you get the hybrid crossing with others, then you go into a generation of hybrid you can't name. You can't name them because they're bits and bobs of anything up to 3 orchids, common spotted Southern Marsh, early Marsh, and early Marsh is definitely in this field. Even though you can't find any early Marsh, I don't think they grow here anymore. They're in the plants to some degree, so it's best to just enjoy them really. It is a hybrid swarm. It's been a hybrid swarm for decades, and long may it be so. If I ever get a DNA kit one day, it would be fun to work out what is what, but that isn't going to happen. But yeah, it's a wonderful orchid meadow in the village of Southorpe, worth coming down and letting it drive you mad as well.